And now for the #1 story of the week. The latest pandemic relief bill gives federal employees up to 15 weeks of paid sick leave if they're affected by the virus, need to get a vaccine, or are caring for a child learning virtually. Here to break down the bill and what it means for federal employees, Terry Gerton is president and CEO of the National Academy of Public Administration. Angela Stiles is partner at Aiken Gump. She's a member of the Public Buildings Reform Board, and she's former administrator of federal procurement policy. Thank you both for joining me. Terry, let's start with you. What does the pandemic relief bill mean for federal employees in your view?
Well, Marjorie, as you just stated, it provides paid family leave for individuals who are both either quarantined or affected by COVID, caring for students, children whose schools might be closed, or caring for someone who can't care for themselves. And the bill specifically also includes that same allocation for the Department of Veterans Affairs and the Department of Transportation Security Agency. So most federal workers are going to be covered by this. It gives them a lot of flexibility, and I think that's a really important feature.
How much do you think that matters to federal employees? What do you think the benefits of that will be?
Right, exactly. It's going to, first of all, give them some confidence, right, that they can take the time they need to keep themselves and their families healthy. And that's really important. So that's going to affect employee morale, employee retention, productivity, as you said. But most importantly, it's going to keep the workforce healthy. And that's a big piece going forward.
Sure. Angela, what jumped out in the bill to you? What do you think are the most important provisions here?
Well, I do think the pay, but you also have to remember there's a cap of $1,400 per week on the paid leave, which is significant to a lot of people. If you're making more than that amount per week, you won't be getting that full amount for your paid leave. But from my perspective, the most significant piece of the bill is the impact of the additional programs on federal employees. I have seen such a tremendous impact in terms of stress and additional work. New programs are being put out. There are expectations for federal employees to implement them quickly and accurately without fraud and with the same workforce that they already have. And I will tell you that it is a very difficult job with so many of them still working from home as well. The ones I've seen, the ones I've worked with on shuttered venues, and then there's a new Restaurant Act grant. And these are billions and billions of dollars. Even the Paycheck Protection Program put an incredible strain on the federal workforce. And I think we all have to recognize that and work with them and recognize all the strains that they are under right now.
It sounds like you think that it's a pretty heavy lift without additional resources. Is there anything that you think can be done to assist here?
Oh, absolutely. I think I'll give you an example. So the shuttered venues grant, $15 billion for stages and live venue operators that are really hurting right now. The first $15 billion came out in December in that stimulus package, but it didn't include any money for the SBA to implement it, to put in an IT infrastructure, to accept applications. And so actually the new stimulus bill just added additional funds for them to be able to bring on contractors, for them to be able to bring on additional federal employees, for them to actually have some IT that's functional. And you saw the same thing. So there's $25 billion for restaurants in the new stimulus bill. And it also has money for implementation of that program. And so at least everybody's learning that there's a lot of stress on our federal agencies and our federal employees, and they need additional resources.
And Angela, this isn't the first stimulus package. Do you think there are some lessons learned or some kind of positives that maybe have come out of previous versions in terms of learning about the implementation?
I think there's some positive and negative lessons learned. I mean, I think what you'll see is some of the fraud that came along with the Paycheck Protection Program is making the federal government much more cautious, both with paycheck protection as well as these additional grant and stimulus funds, to make sure that they're appropriately spent and that they aren't, taken by surprise, that, somebody that's committing fraud or misrepresenting themselves is receiving this money. And I think that's good. I mean, this is a lot of money, and we want to make sure it's spent correctly for the people that really need it.
And Terry, going back to you for a second on leave and the way federal workers are going to react to this, do you think there might be any hesitation about taking this, about not being sure that this is, truly okay?
Well, I think Angela's point about implementing the new programs in the bill is an important one here, right? The agencies are going to need to put out guidance to their workforce and be clear about what the parameters are and how they apply for them. But I think they should have confidence. Federal workers should have confidence that these provisions are going to be available to them, that it's not going to affect their retention or their job performance. But the agencies will need to put out clear guidance, and I think that's true both on the leave side of the program and the programs that are being administered.
What do you think is the key to that guidance? What would you like to see, you think, that will make this be implemented well?
The guidance is going to need to be really clear. It's going to need to tell folks how to apply for it, how to document it, how to be clear on the provisions and how to inform their supervisors. So they're going to need to be putting out all of those kinds of rules, but it's not unlike any other kind of leave program that the government's used to. We just need to put out the clear guidance and communicate it clearly to the workforce.
Angela, with just about 30 seconds left, I want to ask you also, what will you be watching going forward in terms of looking at how this will be implemented?
I think the long-term impact on the federal workforce, you can't both ask them to get this done quickly with no additional resources and make sure it's done perfectly. And so I do worry about the long-term retention of many of our excellent career federal employees because, they've stuck it out through a lot in the past year. My question is, how much longer can they actually keep performing at this level and want to stay in the jobs that they have?
Thank you both for joining me.
Thank you.